Smart 24, driving business.
Welcome yet again. This is Women in Business on Smart 24 TV. Still Doreen Kemcha, and we have an amazing guest, Meg. Meg is MD, Chicano Foods. She has a story to tell, you know. You talked about the edible landscape, and that I said kept on. It's just been in my mind, the edible landscape. If I step out of my house, the very first thing I'm supposed to see is something that really adds some value to me, some nutritional value as well.
Absolutely.
Meg, take us through, yes? Take us through. You've been in Uganda for quite a while, and I mentioned, yes, as a foodie person, what appeals to you the most? What food appeals to you the most? What dish do you like the most?
So my favorite, I'll call my favorite Ugandan dish is peanut sauce.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I just think it's so unique. It can be added to anything. I can add it to rice. I can add it to matoke.
Yeah.
And I just think it's not something I've seen anywhere else.
Peanut sauce.
Yeah. And I think I can eat it with a spoon.
Yeah.
You know, it's just straight. It's just so unique to me.
Yeah. How do you prefer to take it?
You know, when I have at lunch here, I have it with matoke or rice. So.
And yet others have called it bland. So it's a personal taste, right?
I think it's personal taste. I also think, I think our cook does a very good job of making it here. I've never made it myself. I wouldn't even attempt it.
Yeah.
But I think she does a good job. Now, I've had some that haven't been so good.
Yes.
They're too oily or too spicy or too chunky, too watery. But I think when it's made right,
with the right
delicious.
consistency.
Yep.
What has stood out for you? Like, yes, I know you've got, and you've increased the products with the Chicano Foods. You found just a few, and your shelf life is, the shelf is bursting with all these amazing, I see packed mango, yes? I see dried mango, dried jackfruit, I see dried, did it look like strawberries?
Tomatoes.
Yes, tomatoes. There was raspberries, I guess. What other products do you have, and which one is your favorite?
Oh, that's a tough one. Yeah. So, you know, we range from all our different juices. Now, you know, Chicano Foods started with mubisi.
Yes.
So banana juice, right?
Yeah.
And it was something that was only made in the villages, but it was never here in a form that someone in the city could buy it, right? Without it becoming alcohol. So that's how Chicano Foods started. Then it went to mango juice, which I think we have an excellent mango juice. That's probably my favorite juice. Passion pineapple. Then we started with the dried fruits because the market came to us and said, can you do dried fruits? So that's when we did pineapple, mango, jackfruit, papaya, and ndizi and bagoya, right? And then sometimes we mix them all together. Then we started to do flavored versions of those. So you could have a dried jackfruit with chili and lime, for example. Or you could have a pineapple with lime and mint. So, you know, I'm always interested to see what the market is interested in, right? Then we started doing condiments. So now we can do tomato-based condiments. So we can do a tomato paste, we can do a salsa. We have like 3 different flavors of salsa. People asked us for pickles, so we started to do pickles. We can do a chili sauce, a ketchup, a barbecue sauce. The list goes on.
It's endless.
Yeah, it is. And I think that's where my mind goes to the endless opportunities. Because I look at a crate of tomatoes, or tomatoes as I would say it, and I say, okay, from that crate, I can make 8 different products. Whereas you might look at that crate of tomatoes and you look at it as a tomato. I look at it as 8 different products I can make.
I think I've seen some tomato flavored chips. Yes?
Yeah,
I've seen tomato flavored chips on the market.
Yep.
But talk about the packaging.
Yeah, so, and you know, with every product, you have to figure out what is the best product or what is the best packaging that's going to make it last the longest. Right? So when you're talking about condiments, glass will always be the best. Now you have to fill it hot, and it can then last for years.
And when you talk about condiments, this is really, to the average Ugandan, this is sauces, the sauce.
Right, sauces.
Yes,
Right.
the tomato sauce, all that.
Yeah, so those, to make them last the longest, have to be filled hot in a glass jar, sealed, and then it can stay for years.
Yeah.
Same with juice. Now, I always found it very interesting when I came here, because all natural juice, if it doesn't have a preservative, then it has
bad.
you can't see it in the container. So, for example, any of the juices that are in a clear plastic bottle that's labeled juice, it has a chemical preservative in it. Otherwise, it would explode and become alcohol. So, but Ugandans like to see what they're buying. So natural juice then becomes difficult to sell because it's something that they can't see. So that's why the beverage market is a very difficult market here, unless you're willing to put chemicals into your your beverages, right? And then it's the consumer that's going to decide whether they want to afford and pay for a beverage that doesn't have chemicals or one that does have chemicals. Then with dried fruit. Now, traditionally in the world market, again, you will not see dried fruit through the packaging because light can expose that dried fruit and turn it color. Right? So you have to put it in a package where you can't see the fruit.
But with Uganda, we must see.
You must see it, right? So that becomes difficult. So the shelf life of things becomes shorter. Whereas in the world market, it's longer. Right?
But talk about, I made an observation even as we got here. I said a couple of years back, maybe 15 years back, you'd enter a supermarket and the Ugandan packaging was terrible.
Right.
Let's just be honest about it. The Ugandan packaging was terrible, but oh my goodness, over the years, you getting right. And during that time, way back, you'd actually be able to differentiate because the great packaging meant a higher price and it was something from abroad. Whereas the packaging was for a Ugandan product or something like that. But right now you get into the supermarkets and it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. You get into the beverage section, you get into every little part of it, the dry food section. There is awesome packaging being released every single day. You guys are into packaging, especially with natural materials. I've seen some of them out of banana fiber. How did it start? Because that is now another endless.
Again, that's an endless opportunity.
Yes.
You know, I read somewhere recently that the banana stem has been the most wasteful agricultural product ever. Right? Because what happens? You get one cluster of bananas, and then the farmer chops it down, cuts it into bits, lets it become mulch in their garden. Right? Well, again, I now look at a banana stem and I say, I have 12 different products I can now make out of a banana stem. Right? So as we move forward, we have to think of looking at things way differently. You cannot just look at a pineapple and say, okay, I'm just going to eat that pineapple.
What can be done?
What can be done? You have to question everything. You know, I saw a video recently out of Kenya. They're making leather products out of mango.
Out of mango?
And there's even a purse manufacturer here that's using that leather and making a vegan leather purse, right? Because that's what that vegan community wants. They won't buy animal products, so they won't buy a leather purse, but they like the look. Maybe they like the feel. So somebody had to come up with the idea to make leather out of fruit. And they did. So the same thing happened now with this banana stem.
But I believe these opportunities, like over the last couple of years, URI has actually been very instrumental in encouraging Ugandans to come in and use their laboratory and come up with that. Because even with the use of matoke, the matoke stem, I believe paper has been made out of it and some other packaging, and there were a couple of other things that we're doing, but all from URI. Yes. So if Ugandans, and that's a different take that you bring in, if every pineapple that came in, every mango that came in was not just, let's look at the edible part of it, but also what happens after that.
Right.
I think it would continue to bring in more Ugandans in different sectors, but also bring in as much money over the longer chain of it.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah, because, you know, when you can make multiple products out of one item.
Yeah.
So this happened recently with papaya in the last few years. Kenya all of a sudden started to come over here and buy all of our Ugandan papaya. The price went up.
Yeah.
And it's because they figured out how to use the flesh, the seeds, and the skin. Right? So they made 3 products out of one piece of fruit. As opposed to in Uganda, we were only using it to eat.
You do get into Ugandan supermarkets, right? The supermarkets, you do. When you get into the and I'm saying the normal, if I can call it, quote unquote, the normal supermarket that the average Ugandan goes to. Do you get into that aisle? Do you get to move into the aisles that have all these processed foods and look at the Ugandan foods? Yeah. You do? Yeah. Are you amazed by the different? Because when you're talking about all these different foods that are coming in, I am looking at the papaya, also pawpaw, called the one we call pawpaw, the pawpaw seeds, and the pawpaw flour, the okra flour, the rosemary flour. You're spoiled for choice. Yes. I get inside the aisles and I'm looking at all this and I'm like, what is this time, right? And they're telling you it is the seed of a particular fruit, and then you read backwards at the back and then it tells you it helps with diabetes, it helps with this, it helps with that. Talk about ability, because you have Ugandans coming in and giving you all these different beautiful products that you're talking about, really, the flowers, the everything, the condiments. So is it about visibility, that they're not actually pushing them out there, that people don't get to know about them, not only within Uganda but also elsewhere? Because clearly something's not working.
Yeah, I think you know, I think we are a little what's the word for it? We have a greater opportunity here to try and experiment with more things. Yeah. Because, you know, if you were in the U.S. trying to push those products, and you would say that rosemary flour or powder can help with diabetes, you know, it'd have to pass a lot of drug tests, you know, right, to do that. Whereas here, that is not as much the case. And I always found it very fascinating that, you know, when people come into this garden and they look and I say, oh, that's basil. They're like, oh, what do you use it for? I said, well, you eat it. It's you know, only? And they're like, only? What does it cure? And I found that so interesting. I had never thought of it that way, right? Yeah. You know, rosemary, lemongrass, whatever else might be in there, right? Yeah. A Ugandan will find a medicinal solution for it, as opposed to me as a Westerner. I find it edible. I find it as food.
Yes, and actually, when you come to think about it, the edible landscape you're talking about, the Ugandan perspective is to have the medicinal landscape. Honestly, now that it comes out, you must have aloe vera. Yes, because it's chigaji. It is more into anti-malarial. You must have you must have another purple plant, because it's all about there's a plant with purple flowers. I know it's for deworming. So it's really medicinal and not necessarily edible. Yeah. So this particular, because this is also a demonstration farm, right? That you have here. So how do you answer those questions?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even have the answers. You know, I tell them to go to my friend Andrew's farm in Nakaseke, because he's got all the medicinal herbs to go through. I mean, I'm a foodie. I run a food business, and you know, the particular things we grow are very food focused. If someone knows the opportunities to use the products in other ways, more power to them. That's a skill I don't have.
But this also shows you. It also shows you somewhere that maybe that is the particular gap that is constraining the processing of food, right?
Possibly.
Yes, because whereas someone is just looking at that particular, for example, rosemary, it's just really is for tea, right? Cinnamon and all these other plants that are coming up, that's basically for tea only. But they're not looking at the other possibility of, okay, can I get this particular flavor and mix it up with another beautiful Ugandan flavor and come up with some magic and sell it to someone else. Maybe they're not looking.
Right, and I think that's what I've been able to accomplish here with my team.
Yes.
Because I will bring together multiple flavors and they look at me like I'm crazy. And then when I have, you know, our visitors come and taste it, they're like, wow, that's really good. Can I get some? And then they look at me like, how did you do that?
Yeah.
And you know, maybe it's because of my upbringing. Maybe I was exposed to different things, or maybe it's just my brain that says, you know, I need to find a solution because I have excess of this and excess of this, and they're not selling separately. So why don't I put them together and try to sell it together?
Wow. So these are the opportunities really that you get. You are surrounded. We are surrounded.
Absolutely.
These are the opportunities, but sometimes we do not get to see them as opportunities because we just don't see them as opportunities.
Right. I think we go through life with blinders on in a lot of ways because we might be struggling in other things in our lives and we just can't think outside that box. That creative is creative thinking taught in school? Is it taught in school? You know, are we taught in school to be creative here? Yes, it seems like some are, but some are not.
But it's also
and why not?
It's not even just thinking about whether it's taught in school. I think it's even just a way of life. For example, talking about foods, and how most of the visitors that come in get to ask about the medicinal side of what is this? What are you planting? Is it medicinal or it's only just for eating? Why is it only just for eating and stuff like that? It's because predominantly in our minds we know that there are particular foods, yes, and I speak for the average Ugandan. That's matoke, the matoke beans, posho beans, rice, and add, of course, the vegetables. Yes, have the dodo, have the cabbage, and have the cassava, have the potatoes. Like where I come from, basically, where I come from, Kabali, if you don't have the Irish, the sweet potato, that's not a meal. That's not a complete meal. You must have the peas, the beans, and then you have the serious food. That is the serious food, the Irish and the sweet potatoes. So maybe we just need to break these barriers and enlarge.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, definitely there's, if you follow a lot of foodies on Kampala Food Network, you know, the cakes that they're making now these days, you know, the pork joints that are opening up, the flavor profiles of chicken dishes that they're creating. They're being much more creative with food than they have been, you know, when I started here 10 years ago. And I think that's good, you know. You know, I grew up eating Chinese food, you know, Mexican food, you know, American food, Italian food, but yet Ugandans grew up with Ugandan food. Now maybe you look at it as you grew up with food from the north, from the west, you know, from the central, from the east.
Within the boundaries.
But it's still within your boundary. Whereas I was exposed to flavor profiles from very far away.
Okay.
So it's a bit different.
Wouldn't this be, talking about opportunities, wouldn't this be a lovely opportunity, since you're already into, you know, mixing different flavors, for a woman who wants to try out different flavors, wants to get to see if the flavors work out? Can she be able to walk in here and maybe find a platform where she can mix and match the same way you're mixing and matching? Is that
absolutely
possible?
We've been welcoming that for years.
Please stress it.
So anybody can come, you know, make an appointment with us here at Chicano Foods. We, you know, do new product development all the time. You bring your ideas and we'll take a look at it. We'll tell you whether we think it's feasible, whether you might have to change something, change the way you look at your packaging, maybe some of your ingredients, and see if a product can work out. You know, because you maybe don't have the working capital to go out and buy that equipment, right? And maybe I have that equipment here. So use our resources here, get yourself started, prove your concept, build your brand, and then as you earn more and more money, then you go out and you start your own factory.
Because even as they talk about the need to invest, I believe there are so many people out there that have great ideas, that have their time and the effort to invest in their product, but unfortunately don't even know where to start.
Right.
Yes. Now for the Ugandan woman, or even the man out there that has this great, awesome idea and loves these flavors and wants to try something, these are places that they can be able to access. They
Right.
just don't know about it.
Right.
So Chicano Foods is a place.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, we've been doing it for years.
Yeah.
People come in with their product ideas, and we help them prove that concept.
Yes.
Or not.
And also Yuri works as well. Yuri has been doing this for quite a while, and people get to know about it as well. So the more spaces such as this are out there, and the more people come out in the open and say, you know what, there is an opportunity. If you have a great idea, just come in, and we'll help you work it out. Maybe that is when Ugandans will come up and embrace these different opportunities.
Yeah, you know, I've been pushing the concept of a brand Uganda for years, right? What can Uganda be recognized in the world market? And, you know, we have a huge opportunity for food.
The tokefla.
Yeah, so we have a huge opportunity for food. So we have to figure out which food or which foods, how are they presented, and can they be absorbed into, you know, other worldly foods as well.
Do you believe that UTB is really thinking about that aspect of branding? Do you think they are? And coming from the side of American Chamber of Commerce, yes.
UTB, not so much from a food perspective, which I think is a huge gap in how we look at tourism.
Yeah.
Because I say that when someone comes here, you want them to crave Uganda when they go home.
Yeah.
How else do you crave Uganda besides the sun, the people? It's about the food.
It's about the food. Now, and this is why I ask the second time, you are in a position, President of American Chamber of Commerce, where you are able to ruffle a few feathers and maybe bring in a different direction towards something that you know works. It's a wonderful vibe, and it's working for me right now, because I didn't even have it as a perspective really, but I am picking up on it. So I'm imagining what is so difficult, and this is probably some of the challenges. Why haven't you actually reached out to UTB? Because maybe they cannot come to you. Why haven't you reached out and sold this wonderful idea to them, or have you?
I have not reached out particularly to UTB. I've been test marketing it with like tourism operators.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I would like people to come here. Yeah, they can come and have a tour. They can have a tour of our food factory. They can have a tour of our garden. If they're not going to go someplace that grows vanilla, I have vanilla growing here. But yeah, you're right. I think it's now time to really take that to the next level.
Yeah.
And I think just even having our discussion and you challenging me to it, I'm now going to take on that challenge.
That would be great. One, because when we get to hear and see really about these spaces, especially abroad, okay, the branding is different. Yes, and yet with all the different social media clips that I have seen, they bring out the very same thing you're talking about. I love Uganda. That is someone who's been here, yes, and came out and loved. I love Uganda. I love the foods. Oh, I miss the Rolex.
Right.
I miss talking to the people. Yes, I miss the mangoes. I miss the pineapples. If anyone is coming here, please bring me the pineapples. I need the pineapple, the Ugandan mango.
Right.
So as you talked about this, then I started thinking about these other clips that seem hilarious, but they aren't.
Right.
They're actually setting a foundation for what you're already doing, but we aren't really taking advantage of it.
And I think if we had a common theme that we can all talk about in everything that we're doing from a social media standpoint, Uganda will be stronger.
Please,
for sure.
Take a few minutes and just stress. Just a few minutes and stress as we wrap up.
So, for me, you know, being and living in Uganda all these years, I've seen tremendous growth, tremendous opportunities. I've tried to embrace as many as I can. I've increased my employee base here. I work with more farmers groups up country to produce products for us, because I see that I'm just one person. I can't do this alone. We all have to do this together. And so, when we look at a brand Uganda, it means the same. It should mean the same thing for all of us, because we all have to represent that commonality. That's going to want people to come here and crave to come back. And we should be all looking at what makes Uganda unique. And to me, it's the people, the opportunities, and the growth that we've embraced as a society over these last few years that have been very difficult for many and so challenging, but people have embraced those challenges and become stronger out of it in the end. So I think we're in a better position now, and I see even greater growth in the future.
That's just about it. Thank you so much, Meg. It's been such a delight having you. The people, the flavors, the opportunities, let's widen our perspective, right?
Absolutely.
It's been such a delight.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
This has been Women in Business on Smart 24 TV. Doreen Kemcha. Today we had an amazing time with Meg, and hope to see you next time. Please join us again next time, and bye-bye.